So last night I got the chance to watch the new Amazon Prime / Blumhouse horror movie called Totally Killer. The film is a horror comedy that follows a girl who travels back in time to the 80s, meeting a younger version of her mom who is being stalked by a serial killer known as the Sweet 16 Killer. From here, she'll do anything and everything to protect her mother and her friends while also trying to uncover the mystery of who is behind the rizzed up mask. And that's all. Pretty much without giving any spoilers to you guys, this will be a spoiler-free review. Now, this movie is going to be available on Amazon Prime this weekend, so if you're watching this review, there's a good chance the movie's already available for you. But when it comes to Totally Killer, the movie had me hooked in for a couple of reasons. One, it's a slasher. That's my favorite subgenre in the horror field. I'm gonna want to see it. I also thought the premise sounds insanely fun. While there's a lot of people out there saying it's a copycat of the movie Final Girls, which is great, I feel like this one is different enough. They're not going inside a movie that takes place in the 80s in a heightened reality, making fun of horror films themselves. This has a time traveling element and it plays out very differently than Final Girls. But I also thought the cast looked really great, and for the most part the cast is a lot of fun. You have like people like Randall Park in there, Kiernan Shipka, Liana Liberato, Julie Bowen, just enough familiar faces in there for me to go, I want to spend some time here. And so overall, after seeing the movie, yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. But I understand why it went to streaming and not theaters. Let me get into the things that I thought kind of bugged me and held this movie back before I go into why I think it's still fun and worth watching. Is one, we knew this was a horror comedy and it plays it up that way, right? You're expecting to laugh more than you are to be scared, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm a little bit more picky when it comes to horror comedies just because I feel like it's always hard to balance the two in an enjoyable way. Honestly, one of the only horror comedies that I thought balanced everything so well was a movie like Freaky. That's a movie that had me laughing, chuckling, but then when the horror bloody stuff went down, that was intense. When it comes to a premise like a character being able to time travel, you almost are willing to forgive whatever dumb reason they come up with for the character to be able to time travel back to the 80s, right? It could have been something as simple as she was hit with lightning, she fell into a magical river and shows up the next day in the 80s. And I felt like this movie delved a little too hard into the time travel machine or just the time travel antics of the film. And just like how the movie plays into the fact that time travel movies are always confusing and dumb,
hate time travel movies. They never make any sense.
this one has some really dumb, silly, just logic and rules about it. At least they're different and unique. This movie was also being described as Scream meets Back to the Future, and I was like, okay, great. I love Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies of all time, and one of the things I like about that movie is seeing the character meet the younger version of her parents. But here, all the younger versions of the adult characters unlikable brats. It was done on purpose because there's a lot of comedy that comes from that, from the kids just being complete idiots, but it also made it just impossible for me to root for the main character in trying to save the lives of these characters, because I'm like, honestly, girl, just let the killer do his thing, because I do not like these people right now. And when actually getting on to the killer, while he might have a goofy look that I approve of, I think it's honestly a lot of fun. Call him the Rizzler from now on. The dude is honestly very brutal. He starts off strong from the first sequence he's shown early on in the movie, and every kill and chase sequence he gets throughout the film, I was on edge. I was like, oh, they're showing all the blood, the stabbing, the brutality of this Sweet 16 Killer. Dude honestly rocked. I was enjoying it. He's just not in the movie enough. He's in it for the first part and then the last part a good chunk, but in between, not a lot of risen going on. There were big chunks of the movie where I'm like, man, when is this masked dude gonna show up? I need him to kick things into gear. But really, those were just the things holding it back that kind of brought the movie down a notch and made me go, I'm not so pissed that this didn't go to theaters, because it does have a streaming quality to it, but that's not really that bad. Because overall, the movie is fun to watch. Once you get past the silly, dumb stuff that happens in it, a lot of the jokes had me giggling. There's a lot of BJ jokes in here. One that like got me laughing so hard. It was in the trailers. Let me just play it.
Just so you know, I don't do blowjobs. You pee out of that thing.
Maybe if she did do blowjobs, she'd still be alive.
Yeah, let's not make that the lesson.
So the humor for the most part did work for me. Like I was mentioning, the killer himself is a lot of fun when you do get him on screen. They don't hold back. They could have easily have censored this thing to be PG-13, but the beauty of it going to streaming and not caring about how many box office numbers you get, you are allowed to do some bloody nasty stuff. And I was also very fond of the final act of this movie. They play more into some time travel shenanigans. It's set in this carnival, and there's this awesome sequence where they're inside this spinning ride and it creates some suspenseful moments. Honestly, if you gave us more unique set pieces like that throughout the film, this movie would have been brought up a couple of more notches for me. But that one sequence that we do get towards the end, so great. So yeah, I would for sure put this movie in the category of films like Happy Death Day or Freaky, where they're just dumb fun horror comedies. You don't take them too seriously, you don't think too hard on them, and you just enjoy the characters, the kills. And if you're okay with just that, put it on Amazon Prime, man. Isn't that essentially free for us if it's on a streaming service? So when it comes to Totally Killer, I'm gonna give Action 2.5 stars. There was just not enough of this Johnny Bravo looking mask throughout the movie. They do such an awesome job of showing how brutal and ruthless this character is that I was like, man, I would love more scenes with him. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. I was laughing a lot throughout the humor in here. There was a lot of jokes about things that'll get you canceled now, but were okay in the 80s. While it does get overly silly sometimes, you can't help but to have fun with it. Drama in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. I honestly felt like they could have done more with the time traveling plot. While they focused too hard on explaining the time machine and everything going on with it, I feel they kind of botched the Back to the Future element and played more into the mystery of the person behind the mask, because it doesn't become that an important of a thing till like towards the end of the movie, where it would have been more fun to uncover the clues and signs of who the killer might have been. Horror in the movie, I'll give 2 stars. It's not necessarily a scary film, but since a lot of the kills are violent and bloody, I'll put it up there just for that, but the film as a whole is too silly for you to be scared for. And suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. Again, when things are silly or you just don't care about the characters you're witnessing, there's not really a lot of fear about who's gonna live or die. For casual fans, I'm gonna give it a B+. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a C+. And critically, I'm going to give it a C+. If this was a movie currently playing in theaters, I think they made the right choice by having this one go to streaming so you could quote unquote rent and watch it at home.
That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.
Some might think that's an insult to the movie or me calling it bad, but no, it's placed right where it is. They knew this was a streaming type film just to have some dumb fun, and it's correctly placed. If this movie turned out being amazing, a classic slasher, something that could warrant a ton of sequels, I'd be like, man, this should have gone to theaters, but it's not that. It's just dumb fun. Let me know what you guys thought about Totally Killer if you got around to seeing it, and what you liked or disliked about the movie. Either way, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.